right, students, we're going to review the 1960s and 1970s. What we're going to find out is this is a time of a lot of change that takes place in America. We're coming out of the 50s, where, as you've learned about earlier in this web quest, the 1950s was a time of a lot of homogeneity, and people were building the same houses and living in the same communities. And what we're going to see in the 60s is people starting to rebel against that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is actually more of a diplomatic worldview thing. What you see is after World War II, a lot of countries wanted to achieve independence and would achieve independence as colonies, and those things started to fade away with the major European powers. The biggest one we're going to talk about is India, who broke free from the British Empire in the late 1940s. But we see other examples of countries who want independence. The first one that America deals with, as we can see here, is Korea. What we see in Korea is there's these revolutionaries that want to take over, and the people from Korea divide up in two groups, the South Koreans and the North Koreans. If you remember back to earlier in this web quest, we talked about how America's policy toward communism was containment. Well, since the Chinese were helping out the communists in North America, saw that they needed to help out the democratic people in Korea, and they ended up aiding the South. That ends up being a drawn-out war, and Korea is divided into the way it is today in North and South Korea. A few years later, we see Vietnam. Vietnam is pretty similar to this, except Vietnam was a French colony, and the Vietnamese wanted their independence. Once again, the Chinese and the communists are helping Chinese are helping the communists in the north, while the United States and France are helping the democratic group in the south, once again working with containment. Now, Korea was not as costly as Vietnam, and we'll learn later in this presentation that Vietnam ends up being quite a costly conflict for the United States. Around this time, John F. Kennedy gets elected President of the United States, and at his time, he is the youngest president ever elected at the age of 42 or 43, I can't remember for sure. But his biggest promise was moving America forward and providing change that the Republicans did not provide. One thing I actually didn't put on this slideshow is JFK's election is one of the first times we see the television being used, and he was calm, cool, collected, and a relatively good-looking guy, and he was able to defeat Nixon, not only because of his ideas, but because of how he looked on the camera and how he always looked cool, calm, and collected, while Nixon sometimes looked nervous. His big defining moments would be wanting to beat the Soviets to the moon. He promised that America would beat the Soviets to the moon. That's his famous speech. We do things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. That was kind of the big success of his career, and the big failure or the botch thing for him was the Cuban Missile Crisis. All right, so what happened in Cuba is, once again, we're having this big battle between communist and capitalist and democratic. So the Soviets help Castro take over in Cuba, and he takes over that island. And what the Soviets then use is Cuba as a place to plant missiles that would be used to deliver nuclear warheads to the United States. And what this becomes known as is the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it actually ends up being the closest either of these countries were to shooting nuclear weapons at each other. It was very close. It was a time of high tension. And to make matters worse, Kennedy ordered what was called the Bay of Pigs invasion, in which he armed some democratic rebels to go over and try to take over Cuba with the help of American weapons, and that ends up failing. It looks really bad for Kennedy, and it ends up making his presidency kind of look like a failure. But one thing that was successful is America did end up, this was after he dies, but they ended up beating the Soviets to the moon. And if we're looking at the downside of JFK, people look back at him because he was generally seen as a successful president. But a few things that were not great about JFK was in the South, it was the Democratic Party in charge, but the Democratic Party was also the party of the people who supported school segregation and the Jim Crow laws. Kennedy didn't want to lose this vote, so he really didn't do much for civil rights in the South. So while MLK Jr., Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X were trying to push for change in the South, JFK stayed out of it. And all of his changes were brought to a halt in 1963 when he's assassinated in Dallas, and then Lyndon Baines Johnson becomes president shortly after that. LBJ tried to carry on with Kennedy's legacy, but he would actually take on some of the civil rights issues of the day, starting with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which helped integrate schools. Remember, Brown versus Board of Education was passed in 1954, but a lot of schools had not yet taken the process to integrate and put white kids and black kids in school together. So he helped push that forward and also tried to prevent workplace discrimination when it came to the black population. I believe it wasn't until the early to mid 1970s when North Carolina was the last state to fully integrate. Another cool thing to think about that I should have brought up when I first went to the slides, if you look at this picture up here, this is actually LBJ getting sworn in on what would become Air Force One because he is the president. You can see him taking the oath of office. One of the more amazing pictures of that time period. We see, the shock on a lot of people's faces, especially the guy who the cursor's on right now. Other things that LBJ did, he passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which banned literacy tests and poll taxes in the South. These were measures that were intended to try to keep the black population from voting. And also under his watch was the 24th Amendment, which made it not only just a law, but now a constitutional amendment that said that poll taxes could not be used against African Americans in the South. LBJ also helped against people who were in poverty. He fought what was called a war on poverty. The big things he wanted to provide was education, so people could get job training and then be qualified for trades. And secondly, he understood the importance of preschool programs, so he started the Head Start program, which still is around today, that allowed low-income Americans to access preschool. And this was a time of relative success, and he dubbed that generation the Great Society. As we know, though, things didn't go great. One thing that you could be asked about on the AP exam is the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This allowed the president to have almost unlimited power in Vietnam. People always call it the Vietnam War, but technically it was not a war because American Congress never declared war. But 15,000 Americans end up dying in the conflict, and what we're going to see is at the start of the war, there's a large group of people called hawks. And the hawks are the people who want to use American dominance to stop the spread of communism. And then on the other side, we see the doves, who at the start of the war were in the minority, and these were people who didn't want to fight the war. They thought they didn't support it for many reasons. Some people thought that America couldn't win the war. They thought that America was founded on democratic principles, and going over and taking over a country was not democratic. And there was also people who thought we were doing more harm than good with the weapons. I don't have it on the slide, but America used things like pesticides, which killed a lot of the jungle and ended up giving soldiers and people in Vietnam cancer. They used napalm, which was kind of like a flammable jelly that would destroy all the foliage and was very harmful to people who came in contact with it. So there was a bunch of different reasons why people didn't support the war effort. But the important thing to think about is there is a shift that takes place between the hawks and the doves during the war. As the war drags on and more Americans die and more money is spent, more people turn to the dove side. And what grows out of the dove side of this is what's called counterculture, where we see people that fight against this movement. In 1962, the Port Huron Statement was issued from a student at the University of Minnesota, I believe, or Michigan, I think it was. And basically it called for more democracy in America. A lot of the people in the counterculture movement thought the 1950s were too mainstream. There wasn't enough room for individuality, and there was too much control by the government. They thought the government was doing too much, and this movement was tired of it, and out of this came the New Left. And this is what grew into the modern Democratic Party. So it's people who want equal rights. They want women to have rights. They want the gay community to have rights. Earlier in this web quest, you read about the Stonewall riots that took place in New York, and we see all the things that happened with those riots. and the new left pushed for those things. Now, they made it clear that they weren't communists because they didn't want to be lumped in with the radicals. They still believed in American democracy, but they wanted the people to have more power. The biggest group that came out of this was the hippies, and they became a staple of that. They used drugs, sex, and like the idea of being yourself. And all of those were the key tenets of that movement. And this came to a head with the Woodstock Festival that took place in New York. Tens of thousands of Americans gathered to celebrate this hippie culture. I would not be surprised if you were asked about that on the exam. Well, you won't be asked about it if you're taking this in 2020 because we don't go into Unit 8. But if you're using this in 2021 or on, Woodstock is a big moment that illustrates the hippie culture. You know, there was a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, and rock and roll, which was the things that made that movement what it was. Finally, the era comes to an end. America gets out of the Vietnam War, becomes too costly, becomes too many lives were being lost. Ironically, America gets out of the Vietnam War for a lot of the reasons the British got out of the Revolutionary War in the 1700s because the public didn't like it because it was too expensive. And the big thing was called the Tet Offensive. America ended up getting beat, and the American government had been telling people that America was going to win the war, and they were winning, and it showed that America was lying about how much was actually going on in Vietnam, and people started to really lose support, and eventually troops were withdrawn from Vietnam because of those reasons. We talked about Martin Luther King Jr. being an advocate for nonviolence. Well, we see Stokely Carmichael forming the Black Party during this time because by the end of the 1960s and early 1970s, people in the black community were getting upset with the lack of movement that was taking place when it came to civil rights. Nixon ends up becoming the president by going against the war. And as we get into the 1970s, hippies start to wear on the American public because people were tired of the drug use and the promiscuous behavior. So we talk about this is an interesting ebb and flow that takes place because the hippies came about because people were tired of the rigid conservative nature of the 1950s. What we see is as the hippies take over, become more mainstream, people become tired of their antics, and then a new conservative movement would come about with Ronald Reagan, which would then focus on women returning to their roles in the home. People wanted less government involvement in their lives. They wanted less government intervention when it came to the economy. They thought there should be less regulation. And to end the era, we see Reagan taking over for what many saw as the failed presidency of Jimmy Carter because of all of the economic issues and some of the foreign issues that took place in the Middle East. So this is a quick run through of some of the main parts of the later parts of Unit 8. Thank you for listening and have a great day.